The second season of the Blondie's MX5 World Tour comes to you from Okayama International Circuit. Good evening, everyone, and welcome live to iRacing Super Saturday on Glacier TV. For those of you who tried tuning in 3 hours ago wondering where the hell the Pro Series was, unfortunately race number 1 got cancelled, so the iRacing.com Road Pro Series will start next Saturday, and that will be at Watkins Glen in New York. Meanwhile, back to this, the MX5 Series. As I said, we're in our second season now on Glacier TV. Round number 1 comes to you from this Okayama International Circuit. This 2.31 mile, 11 turn corner, which hosted 2 Formula 1 World Championship races back in 1994-1995, referred to then as the Pacific Grand Prix. The checkered flag for qualifying will be out in a little under 20 seconds time. Jan Koeman is currently setting the pace in the number 55 machine with a time of 1 minute 47.484. And that is a full half a second ahead of Guilherme Rato in the number 8 machine, who did a time of 1 minute 47.905. Of course, these drivers, if they pass the start finish line, as the checkered flag is now in hand, they will have the chance to do one more lap. Drivers that are going to miss out, Dexter Castro, who just came past the start finish line, with 3 seconds after the checkered flag wave. Michael Mason and David Schaefer are both on the racetrack doing a lap, as is Guilherme Rato, Yanis, and Torafti Jan Koeman, all out on the racetrack for their final lap. So we're having a look at number 37 machine. We're live on board with him at the moment, and that is Yanis. And you see that he has got some traffic ahead of him. That is Tom Rafferty, who's no slouch himself, and of course Yanis is currently sat in the 5th position in his number 37 machine. He is 2 corners away from the end of the lap now, and Tom Rafferty is a little bit slower ahead of him, so this could be hurting Yanis' lap time, but of course every single lap that you can do before the race help your chances once the race starts. And Yanis there, you see there, he'll come past the start finish line, Rafferty ahead of him, and Yanis does not improve his time, and neither does Tom Rafferty either. And Rafferty is actually 7/10 of a second slower than what he'd done previously, and you could argue that that might have hurt the 37 machine's chance of getting a better lap in as well. So we've just got a couple more cars now to come past the start finish line. Claudia Klimmer in the number 24 machine coming down. We'll see whether he can improve his time. His fastest was a 1 minute 49.196. As he comes past the start finish line, he does not improve his time as well. Neither does David Schaefer. Giuseppe Aero is going to be the last driver to come past the start finish line. In fact, we take that back. He does not quite make it. So then, to run you through your starting field here for this round number 1 of the Blondie's MX5 World Tour presented by Blondie's Bar in Long Beach. Jan Koeman is your Blondie's Pole Sitter Award with a time of 1 minute 47.484. Guilherme Rato, he's on the grid already in the number 8 car, 1 minute 47.905. Race number 2 is going to be Tuomas Halonen and Andruskis Taktis in the 08 machine. Race number 3, Yanis on the left-hand side with Giuseppe Aero on the right-hand side. Race number 4 in Sun's position, Douglas Beard and Tom Rafferty lining up alongside him in the 8th position with Eric Garcia and Claudia Klimmer rounding out your top 10. Mikkel Gustafsson in the 11th position, Nico Brandt in 12th, with Rene Tani in the 13th position, Jonathan Keir in 14th, Benjamin Lanuta in the 15th spot, with Mihaly Mason in 16th, Chuck Johnson, David Schaefer, Christopher Thompson, Dexter Castro round out your top 20. The rest of the timings of these drivers will be coming up on your screen momentarily. And we are waiting now for this race to begin. We'll be racing for 23 laps here today. A standing start in these Mazda MX-5. There's 2 choices you can run. In the left-hand drive car, that's known as the MX-5 Cup, or the right-hand side, the Mazda MX-5 Roadster. And most of these drivers, you've seen them switching between cars all season long, just because some cars have better handling at certain tracks compared to others. Today we see most of the top drivers in the Cup car, as we're away here at Okayama, and as they come down into turn number 1 for the first time, Jan Koeman gets a good start, as does Giuseppe Rato. All these cars now got to funnel into what is essentially a single wide corner for turn number 1. We're 3 wide back in the middle of the pack there, and it looks as though everyone's got through okay. Tom Rafferty was pretty slow there on the apex of turn number 1, as they're screaming 2-3 wide still as they come into turn number 2. This is where the track goes up to one of its fastest points on the racetrack as they come through the S's for the first time. Still too wide through the middle of the pack. I'm looking at the 81 car of Melhemi Mason, who is in 16th position, and a couple of these drivers are really trying to make some big moves early on. From that, Mason goes up into the 15th position himself. Up front, it is Jan Koeman, who's your race leader. Hemi Rato is in the second position with Thomas Lahunen in the 23 machine in the third spot, of Adruskas T in the fourth position. Yeah, Yanis running out your top five. The top 7-8 drivers single file now as they come down into the hairpin. This is when the track gets slower. These cars got to be really careful. They don't put power down too early and swerve the car around, and you can really go off track here and have yourself a big moment. You see there, Thomas Lunen in the 23 car trying to make a move on Hemi Rato. This is the battle for the second position. Lunen not quite managed to make it happen as they came down into the third from last corner there. That was turn number 9. Now we're going to flick it right to the right hand side. Just a short trend away to complete the lap here. Rato, in fact, now starting to close down himself. Jan Koeman in the number 55 machine, and of course Rato and Koeman have had some great battles in this the Mazda MX-5 World Tour presented by Blondie's Bar in Long Beach. Coming down to complete lap number 1, it is going to be Jan Koeman in the number 55 machine leading the way. Hemi Rato in the second position. In fact, very slow there as they came out onto the start finish line. You see, he had to be very defensive to protect Thomas Lunen coming down into turn number 1. Rato went all the way down to the inside. Lunen now trying to look down to the outside, coming down into turn number 2. He said have such a long way around to go. He decided not to do so, but now he's going to try and see if we can have a peek as they go down into turn number 5. That's a long 180-degree right-hander known as the spoon curve, and Halunen looking very racy here early on. So Halunen there, he's going to get a very good drive. He's looking already to the outside of Rato as they come down the back straight away. He's going to get right up into that draft. You see once again Rato looking all the way to the inside. He's not going to let Halunen have an easy ride of this, and now he's going to have to brake later. It's a 23 car as he is side by side. Technically he's ahead by about half a car length. He's going to try and brake later now, coming down into the hairpin. They almost touch. Halunen gets a good drive off the corner, but Rato there was able to take the advantage into that corner, and Rato tried turning over him. He goes into the grass. Halunen is going to get a good drive now as they come down this short straightaway. Rato there almost turning across Halunen in the 23 car. Big action for second position early on in this race. While this is all going on, Jan Koeman's ahead of them. He's just disappearing off into the Japanese sunset, but Halunen once again trying to make the move happen, and Rato has been very good at defensive driving here, going all the way down to the inside coming off the corner. He's not blocking because he's making that move early down the straightaway rather than weaving from side to side, and Halunen had the chance there to try and get the job done. Now it took look as though Halunen got squirty in the hairpin itself, but then the corner afterwards, Rato got a bit squirty himself as he tried turning in a bit too early and then got himself onto the grass. For the time being, however, though, he keeps the second position, but the gap to Koeman is now 2.1 seconds, and each lap that these drivers are battling for second position, Koeman is just going to drive away. And this is one of the battles that we have on the racetrack at the moment. However, a little bit further back through the field, we have got ourselves a nice battle for what is essentially going to be 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th on the racetrack. This is Mikael Gustafsson in the number 99 car with Eric Garcia in 9th, Tom Rafji in the 10th spot, and Rafji's lost himself 2 positions from the race start. Nico Brandt in the 11th position, 1 position up from where he started, and these drivers are battling right now to get themselves into the top 10. For the most part, it's very even between them, but Rafji gets a good line coming out of the spoon curve. He's now going to try and look down to the inside as they come down this back straight away. Not quite got all the draft he needs to tuck back in behind Eric Garcia in the number 89 car as they come down into this hairpin. The biggest braking zone on the racetrack. He's looking down to the inside. He's not going to be able to complete the pass, however, so we'll tuck right in behind Eric Garcia in the 89 car as they come through this, the tricky technical second and third sectors. Out front, it is Jan Koeman in the 55 machine leading the way, but Rato has managed to keep that second position for yet another lap. Halunen is looking all left, right, and everyone. Rato goes off track there in the 8 car. The car just napped to the right of him as he came down into turn number 8, the second biggest braking zone on the racetrack. He clipped the white line on apex, and the car just slid on him. Rato onto the grass. He loses second position and third, and now he has got, I believe that is Yanis in the number 37 car. He's trying to take 5th spot away away from him as well. So Ratto, who was driving that car on the absolute ragged edge to try and keep Halunen behind him, loses 3 positions almost in the space of 1 lap. He's got to be careful now to try and defend from Yanis as they come back down into turn number 1 once again. Ratto's only saving grace, however, is he will of course have the draft from Adruskis in the 08 car as they go through this first sector, and that might help him a little bit. And in fact, Ratto is looking as though he's going to try and line up a pass on that 08 car. So looking a little bit back further through the field once again, and that battle that we're talking about between Tom Rafferty, Eric Garcia and Mikael Gustafsson. Rafferty still looking very racy early on in this race, and also actually Garcia's closed right to the rear of Mikael Gustafsson in the 99 car, who in turn has caught Claudia Klima in the 24 machine. The 24 machine of Claudia Klima there, driving for Club Central Eastern Europe, coming down the back straightaway. He's got himself about a 4 car length advantage over Gustafsson, so he's okay for the time being. But ahead of that battle now has got Douglas Beard, Yanis involved, Adruskis Turkle is involved, and Guilherme Ratto, who's moved himself up now back into the 4th position, getting himself past Adruskis Turkle. So in fact, I'll take that back now. Ratto's back up into the 3rd position. Turkle is in 4th, with Yanis in 5th, but Douglas Beard right behind him in the 63 car. So 4 cars literally separated by less than 1.5 seconds on the racetrack, battling for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th position. Thomas Halunen has got a 2-second gap over these drivers, but Halunen in the 23 car is a full 3.5 seconds almost now behind Jan Koemans in the 55 machine. Checking it in further back through the field, Dexter Castro, Michael Neeson, Christopher Thompson and Jim Bolin, the 13, 81, 27 and 05 cars respectively. These guys are battling for 14th, 15th, 16th and 17th on the racetrack. Castro there is looking as though he's struggling in this race, and we saw some good performances by Castro last season, but in the first race of the season here at Okayama, it looks as though that 13 car really is struggling, as he is way down the field when we've seen him previously in this series. So he's currently sat in the 15th position with Mihaly Meeson in the 16th spot, only a couple of car lengths behind him as we're working our way through sector number 1. In fact, they're coming into turn number 2 now. Castro there really looking as though he's down on speed here today. In fact, he's losing a ton of time to Johnson in the 87 car, as well as Benjamin Lononette and Renato Taddy, who are battling for 12th through 14th positions respectively on the racetrack. Gonna check back in this battle now for 4th, 5th and 6th position. Guilherme Ratto has pulled out a 2nd advantage over Adruskis Turkle in the 08 car, so he's comfortably in that 3rd position for the time being. But Turkle, Yanis and Beard, they're still battling hard for 4th, 5th and 6th position on the racetrack. That Beard getting very close to the rear of Yanis as they come out of turn number 7. He's thinking of perhaps maybe move down the inside. In fact, he's going to try and do so. Coming down into turn number 8, he's going to try and complete the pass, getting a little bit sideways from the apex, and I believe that's Guilherme Ratto that is off once again there. He gets on the brake nicely, turns into the corner, but once again he catches that white line and the car just slides him, and this time, instead of all the way to the left-hand side, he lost even more time than he did originally, and he's once again behind this battle for 4th, for now 3rd, 4th and 5th on the racetrack. So Ratto's day just goes from bad to absolute worse, and he's now sat in the 6th position. Jan Koemans is your leader up front in the number 55 machine, as we have put 5 laps in the book here at Okayama International Circuit. Koemans' gap over Thomas Halunen is now up to 4.8 seconds as they crossed the line last time by, so expect that to now break into the 5-second window. But look at this, Halunen back to Turkle is also a 5-second gap. So the top 2 drivers really separating themselves from the rest of the field at the moment, but we thought that perhaps once Halunen had got past Guilherme Ratto, he would have been able to make a bit of inroads on the 55 car of Jan Koemans. Doesn't look as though that was the case, but don't forget, these drivers have to make themselves one pit stop in this race, and we've seen how good Jan Koemans can be on pit road, but the 23 car of Thomas Halunen is no slouch as they come onto pit road as well, and the Club Finland driver there at the moment is losing a couple of attempts from second lap, but that could be down to the differences in fuel loads and strategy that we've seen with these drivers. I mean, Halunin at the moment is setting times of 1 minute 48.9, and that's a full second off what we saw him do in qualifying earlier in this race. Compare that to Jan Koeman's, his fastest lap time in qualifying was 1 minute 47.4. He's actually only 3 attempts slower, so that gives a bit of an indication as to how perhaps Halunin might have more fuel in this race. He might be trying to go a longer distance, and this battle isn't yet over, and both these drivers out front need to make sure that they can, you know, really push it all the way up to and after that first pit stop. Checking back in with number 8 car of Okayama Rato. He's moved himself back up into the 5th position, passing, Yanis as they come past the start-finish line. And Rato's days, we said, it's gone bad to worse, back up again into the 5th spot. But he's once again got to try and get past Douglas Beard and Andruskis Turskis. In fact, Beard looking down to the inside of the 08 car on Turskis. He will complete the pass in the spoon curve, but Turskis is going to come right back at him out of the apex of the spoon curve. And that is a beautiful crossover there by Turskis. And in fact, now Beard is going to be very careful that he's going to perhaps lose that position also to Okayama Rato. So, Beard, who was actually for just a couple of seconds up into the 3rd position, is going to not only lose 3rd, but also the 4th spot as well. As both those drivers going wide, in fact, Turkis goes wide as well. Okayama Rato takes 2 drivers in the space of 1 corner there, and it is all gang ho as they are in the middle of this pack here. And now it's Rato back once again into the 3rd position. The 3rd time we've seen him there. Turskis is into the 4th spot, and Douglas Beard, in fact, is going to breeze past Turskis now. So perhaps Turskis has a problem, perhaps overworked his tyres. He might let the 37 of Yanis go past as well. In fact, he probably won't have any say in that because of the fact that you see there, Yanis had the inside line coming down into turn number 9. And as soon as you're on the inside of this track, you pretty much have got the corner all to yourself. So Turskis is falling back from the 3rd position at the start of this lap number 7, and he'll fall all the way back now down to the 6th spot as they come past the start-finish line once again. Checking in on this battle for 8th, 9th and 10th on the racetrack. Mikael Gustafsson in the number 99 car. He's still got Eric Garcia right behind him, less than half a second between these drivers. However, Tom Rafferty's starting to fall away a little bit. He's dropped back to about a second behind the 89 car of Eric Garcia. Nico Brandt is caught up to the rear of Tom Rafferty. We talked about earlier on how Nico Brandt was struggling to hold on, but as this race progresses, some of these drivers might have used a little bit too much of their tyres early on and are now paying the consequences for that. We know drivers like Nico Brandt and Eric Garcia are very good on their race tyres. They've been strong in the second sections of these races. And when you consider the fact that the way these pit stops work is that you really don't want to take tyres unless you absolutely have to, then, you know, if you can preserve your tyres and get away with not taking any tyres in your pit stop, you actually can gain yourself a huge barrel of time. Gustafsson, however, while all of these drivers have been, you know, fighting for 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, is actually catching now Claudio Klimt in 7th, who's also in turn caught the 08 car of Andruskis Turskis in the 6th spot. So in a way, if this carries on and these drivers continue battling for a position, you could have everyone from 4th position, Douglas Beard in the 63 car, all the way back essentially to Nico Brandt in the number 42 machine in 11th, all battling not only for the top 5, but to round out your top 10 as well. So we are watching round number 1 of the 2nd season of Blondie's MX-5 World Tour on Glacier TV. I say the 2nd season, these guys have been racing here on Glacier TV. And of course, the Blondie's MX-5 World Tour is presented to you by Blondie's Bar in Long Beach. If you're ever in Long Beach, go visit Blondie's Bar. And these drivers really are battling for every last inch on the racetrack. You can see that a big checkup required by a number of these drivers. Gustafsson in the 99 car getting slidey on the apex there, and that would hurt. All these drivers that had to check up. Garcia wasn't quite close enough to be able to capitalise on this, but Tom Rafferty has been able to close up to the rear of Thomas Garcia as they come down. Eric Garcia as they come down into turn number 5 once again. He'll try looking down to the inside. Not quite going to make it happen. The 41 car there working on the 89, but he's going to take the tight line onto the back straightaway as he had a bit of pressure from Nico Brandt behind him. Nico Brandt now starting to come into the picture. He's got a good draft coming down this long back straightaway. And in fact, he will look down for the inside 42 on the 41 car. At the same time, you have there Gustafsson on the outside line, and he had to take the biggest braking zone I think I've ever seen him do all race long. Garcia will go past him, however, and Gustafsson lost just a little bit too much there, that he wasn't able to capitalise into the following corner when the track switched from a right-hander into a sequence of two left-handers. Nico Brand also able to get past Thomas Rafferty. So the way it lines up now, it is going to be Eric Garcia moved up into the 8th position, Gustafsson down to 9th, Nico Brand up to 10th, and Tom Rafferty down into the 11th position. Checking in on your race leader, Jan Koemans, in the number 55 machine, currently working down into turn number 1. We're trying to go on board with the 55 car in a moment's time, and Koemans currently working through turn number 2, and this is where the track gets really fast as he flicks it out the corner, using a lot of gravel there actually, does Koemans, as he comes now down into turn number 3, then the 4, this is not really a corner, you just hug the curve all the way around the apex. Then the big braking zone going down into turn number 5. You've got to really use the curve on entry and then roll the car out onto the exit as they come out of turn number 5. Now you see, you go up the crest and then you can see the apex of the corner right there in your distance there, coming down into the hairpin. And as soon as you're out the hairpin, things start getting really tough for these cars. Low speed, these cars don't like low speed as much as they do high speed, and the car likes to get twitchy on these drivers quite often. We've seen, let's say, the 8 car Okayama has had a ton of issues down into turn number 8, as Jan Koemans is currently now working down into turn 7. He'll get a nice little flick there, holding the apex curve nicely once again on exit. He's using quite a lot of the track there, and these cars, you know, they don't like the white lines, but you can really put the wheel onto the grass just a little bit, and so once you keep the car straight on exit, you can actually make up a little bit of time there. And Koemans using all of his MX-5 racing knowledge, as he's now built up a 7-second gap over Thomas Halunen, coming down into turn number 10, the penultimate corner on the racetrack. He uses the curb one more time coming into the final corner. This is actually really tricky, because you've got no apex to actually aim for at all. You've just got to make one up in your head, but then you've got to make sure you get a good speed off the corner down this domain straight away. Koemans puts 10 laps in the book, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds. So then, to run through your top 10 here in round number 1 of the Blondie's MX-5 World Tour from Okayama International Circuit in Japan, it is Jan Koemans, your race leader, in the number 55 machine. He's got himself now a 8-second gap over Thomas Halunen in the number 23 car, riding in the 2nd position. Halunen is a further 7 seconds ahead of Okayama in the 8 car, who's had good speed, but has struggled specifically down in turn number 8 all race long. Yeah, Yanis is in the 4th spot in the number 37 car. Rudruskis Turskis just 2 car lengths behind him in the 08 car. Claudia Klima has managed to get his way past Douglas Beard in the battle for the 6th position, with Mikael Gustafsson actually dropping back once again off this field. So while Yanis, Rudruskis, Klima and Beard were fighting for position, Gustafsson and his train could catch back up, but now Gustafsson is sat in the 8th spot, 5 seconds behind Beard, with Garcia just a couple of car lengths behind. Nico Brand is down in the 10th position, and of course then you've got Thomas Rafferty, who's fallen back off this pack as well, in the 11th spot. Looking a little bit further down the field, you've got yourselves an interesting battle going on between Jim Bolland, Jeremy Naylor and David Schaefer. This is the battle for 16th, 17th and 18th positions on the racetrack respectively. These guys are separated by less than 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. The 05 car of Jim Bolland leading the way here, but he's got Jeremy Naylor, who's trying to put the pressure on. In fact, David Schaefer is just sat there waiting for either of these drivers to make a mistake in the 56 car themselves. And you see a car coming down the pit road. I believe that is Christopher Thompson, one of the first drivers to commit to pit road here today. We're not quite at half distance, but we expect some of these drivers to come down pit road themselves in the next couple of laps. We'll see whether Thompson takes tyres or not in his number 27 machine, and he'll come down into pit road. Very slow pit road here. He's going to, I believe he is actually going to take some tyres here. He's taking left-hand side, so of course he'll take right-hand sides as well. This will cost him actually a good couple of seconds. Drivers who can manage their tyres all race long and don't get the performance drop-off can make an advantage on these pit stops. And of course, keep an eye out to see when the leaders come to pit road. We do expect Koeman to perhaps come in a little bit earlier than Thomas Halunen in this race. He's got himself almost 9-second advantage now, and in fact, Jan Koeman's last lap time, a 1 minute 48.069, and he's dropping off the pace a little bit now, is Koeman's. Perhaps that's the fact that he's got a big enough gap, or it could be the fact that his tyres are starting to get shot to pieces. He's been driving a very hard race since the drop of the green flag here, and in fact he's come past the line once again, 1 minute 48.0, the third lap he's had in the 1 minute 48.0 range in the space of the last 4 laps. So, Koeman is your race leader. As I say, he's got himself a 9-second gap now over Thomas Halunen. And Ratto's still in that third spot. We have no drivers down pit road. In fact, I take that back. Lau Jewel is on pit road, but he's all the way down in the 27th and last position. He has currently scored 1 lap down. He's made that trip down into pit road, so his service is almost complete on that race car. But say we are, in fact technically we are at halfway point now, as the 63 machine of Douglas Beard just made the pass there on Claudio Klima. You saw perhaps on your screen, and Beard has moved himself up into the 6th position, and Beard and Klima have been racing quite hard in this race, and Klima had the advantage a little bit earlier on once these drivers are really stacked up together, but it seems as though once the 24 car loses that draft, his car really does hit a brick wall, and Douglas Beard has driven a good couple of laps there to find his way past and up into the 6th position. Checking in on Giuseppe Aero, he is all the way down in the 20th position. He had to serve a black flag penalty at the start of this race, which cost him an absolute ton of time for the Club Italia driver in number 46 machine. He is trying to catch Scott Malcolm in the moment for the battle for the 19th position. Aero is 1 minute 12 seconds behind the race leader. That's going to be disappointing, seeing as he started this race in the 6th position, and you really cannot gain 1 minute 12 seconds in the course of a long race here. Aero really is catching Malcolm at a dramatic rate of knots. In fact, Aero's last lap time was a 1 minute 51.1. You compare that to Malcolm, a 1 minute 52.1, so a full second quicker, and Aero has been lapping actually a good lot faster, with the exception when he's been stuck behind traffic. And in fact, he should complete the pass in the next couple of corners. He was right now up to the rear of Scott Malcolm in that number 74 machine. To give you an update on retirees, well, there are none. All 27 cars are still on the racetrack. We have 26 cars on the lead lap. And Hiro Kanya is currently the last car scored on the lead lap, in the number 6 car, and he is still actually a good 20 seconds ahead of the race leader. So for the way it stands, these cars will be staying on the lead lap for a sizable amount of time, as we are past half race distance now, currently working on lap number 14 of 23 here at Okayama. Keeping an eye, of course, on that pit road. We don't have any takers at the moment. You see that Giuseppe Aero actually is going to complete the pass as they come down into turn number 1 on Scott Malcolm, to move Aero back up into the 19th position, where he will still be utterly disappointed with the fact that he's pretty much 13th position from where he started this race. Drive to note, Nico Brandt has managed to get himself ahead not only of Eric Garcia but Mikael Gustafsson as well. We talked earlier on in this broadcast about how Nico Brandt is very good in the middle stages of this race, and he's proven that once again. He was at one point down in 11th, he's moved himself back up into the 8th position, and Nico has charged his way up from the 12th spot. He's one of the big movers in this race here today, as for the most part, mean, there's been a lot of changes to position, but no drivers have really gained that many spots at all on this racetrack. Having a look through, Nico Bryant, especially in the top 15 drivers, has made the biggest amount of overtaking passes out of anyone, moving himself 4 places up from where he started up into that 8th position. But Nico Bryant is a full 6 seconds ahead of that gaggle of cars. Claudia Klima, Douglas Beard, Andruskas Hurskis. Yeah, Jan is actually moving himself up into the 4th position as well, passing Douglas Beard. And I believe actually Andruskas Hurskis is down on pit road in that 08 car, driving for Club Celtic there. And Andruskas is going to come out of pit road there in his car. He's going to hit that speed limiter nicely, coming out, back out onto the racetrack, and he is going to be in about 15th position for the time being, as I saw another car on pit road as well, and that was Benjamin Lanuetti. Who was in the 17th spot in the Simvide number 7 car. He is completing his service as well, and he is about to come back out onto the racetrack. So, the 37 car, having a look at him. Yeah, Yanis having a move. I believe that is Douglas Beard. He's found a way back past there. So move Yanis back down into the 5th position as Douglas Beard makes the move nicely there on the inside, coming down into the hairpin. We've seen most of our overtaking manoeuvres happen there today. And the 63 car, Douglas Beard, really has looked like he can be a big player in this race. Definitely, he's looking for a top 5 here today. A little bit too far off the pace to really challenge for these podium positions, unless Rato, Halunen or Koemans ahead of him have some issues. One thing that's interesting to note is that last season we saw a number of strategies here. Some drivers going early into pit road, some drivers going late into pit road, some drivers literally just splitting the race in half, doing one stint and the other. It looks as though here today, however, most of these drivers are actually waiting until they have to come down onto pit road, as I believe that is Tom Rafferty there committing down onto that pit road entry in the number 41 car. So Tom Rafferty there, the driver from Massachusetts, down onto pit road. 37 miles an hour it is for him, as he's going to try and get himself nicely tucked in there, and he's going to get himself 4 tyres, and he'll top up the race gas as well. No other takers to pit road at this time. I tell you what though, Scott Malcolm just got passed, like he was starting still, by Mehe Mason in the battle for the 19th position. We talk about how Malcolm has been going backwards in this race, and I mean, he did qualify in the 23rd position, moved his way up a couple of spots, but he's now fallen back down into the pack, and he's now sat in the 20th position in this race. Coming up on Glacier TV later on this evening is round number 3 and 4 of the Proto Ice $1,000 Cup. That'll be taking place from Northamptonshire, England, the historic Silverstone circuit, which of course hosted the first ever World Championship Formula 1 race. That will be at 9 PM on Glacier TV, coverage provided of course by Glacier TV with myself, Liam Jenkins and Marius back in the booth for what is always some very big races, as Jan Koemans comes down to pit road to take his service. Jonathan Keir and Bill Zan on pit road as well, but Koemans is the first of these drivers to commit down to pit road. Does Halunen come down? No, he stays out. So Halunen is going to be the second race leader of this race here today. And Koemans is just coming into his pit box now, and he is getting himself no tyres. So fuel only for Jan Koemans in the 55 car. This should be a pretty short pit stop for him. We've only got ourselves a handful of laps left to go, and he'll come back out onto the racetrack. He's got 2 cars ahead of him. That's Jonathan Keir and Bill Zam, only about 6-7 seconds ahead. But Koemans only slots back into the 4th position, I believe. In fact, I'll take that back. He might have slotted into about 7th or 8th there, as Claudia Klima also coming down pit road now. So pit road going to get very busy over the next couple of laps, as Thomas Halunen in the number 23 car is your new race leader. Hemi Rato has closed that gap down actually a little bit. So Halunen is now down to 5 seconds. We talked about how at one point in this race that was up to 7.5, 8 seconds. Rato's starting to get a bit more confident after those incidents early on this race, and he's closed that gap now to under 5 seconds in what is, for the moment, the battle for the race lead. And in fact, checking in on Okayama, his lap times have really improved over the last couple of laps. His fastest lap in 1 minute 48.150, and his last lap in 1 minute 48.474. His lap times are getting more consistent than they were early on. I mean, if you have a look at the start of this race, again, he gets very sideways in turn 8. That's a corner he's had troubles with all race long, but his times from the 1 minute 49 regions early on, it's down to 1:48. I mean, of course, a little bit of that has to do with the fact they're taking lower fuel now compared to early on in this race. Keeping an eye out on Halunen. Here comes down this pit road. He's got traffic ahead of him, and Okayama there hurting the entrance a little bit there of Thomas Halunen, and he's just going to try and go around the outside of him there, keeping an eye on Ratto. He stays out to lead a lap, so he will become our third race leader here today. But Halunen will come down into his pit box. He got a little bit held up there on entry and he also misses his pit box as well there by about 4 feet, having to reverse back in. So it's all going wrong for Halunen at the very worst time. And just having a look as he came down to pit road, he took that corner with so much speed when they had to slam on the brakes to avoid running into the rear of Okayama back out onto the racetrack. However, still pointing in the right direction, everything's pointing the right way, so no harm, no foul, just a little bit of egg on the face for him. However, Thomas Halunen breezes past him, and I have to say that gap is really increased between Koemans and Halunen. In fact, I believe it's up to almost 15 seconds. We'll get confirmation of that as these drivers go past the start-finish line. But Ratto is currently your race leader in the 8 car. We're going to see whether he commits down towards pit road this time by, as we're going to have 5 laps left to go at the start-finish line. How long can Ratto manage to drive this one out? And can he use it? In fact, no, he is going to come down towards pit road this time by. And this will be interesting to see whether or not he can get an advantage where Halunen didn't. And in fact, Ratto very, very late on the brakes there. That might gain him at least half a second in that battle for the second position. Ratto comes into pit road in the 8 car. Got Scott Malcolm on pit road as well. In fact, he's coming out of his pit box now. He's not going to hold out Ratto at all. Nico Brand also making that journey down towards pit road for his mandatory pit stop here today. And you see again a number of interesting strategies. Ratto in his pit box, keeping an eye on Thomas Halunen. In fact, he's coming out of the final corner now. So Ratto is actually coming back out onto the racetrack. Could he take second position away from Halunen as they come down into turn 1? It's going to be very close. Halunen is behind, and unless he gets a huge jump, no he doesn't, Ratto will take the second position away. And that just shows how much time the 23 car lost in that single top pit stop, not only coming in with traffic, but coming out around traffic as well. And the 23 car having an 8-second gap over Ratto at one point in this race, that got halved almost down as they came into pit road. Ratto gained a ton of time on pit road itself, and he is now up into the second position in this race. In fact, if you want to compare in lap times, Ratto did a 2 minute 13.422. Compare that to a 2 minute 19.4 for Thomas Halunen, and that is why those positions are all changed. And in fact, Jan Koeman's lap time, pit-in time, was also 2 seconds slower than Ratto, so Ratto has had a blistering pit stop there, and that's how he's got himself up in second. Douglas Beard currently sat in the 4th position. He's pulled out now a 2-second gap over Akaduskis Tarkis in the 08 car, who in turn has pulled out a 2-second gap over Yanis in the 6th position. Field's starting to get a little bit spread out now, as of course these pit stops are coming into play. Some drivers very good on pit road here, and that's leapfrogged them a couple of positions in this race. In fact, we'll check in on Nico Brand quickly. We saw him come down pit road around the same time as Okayama Ratto. He is currently behind Okayama, who is scored 1 lap down. But Brand has actually got about a 7-second gap to Yanis ahead of him. And this is probably going to be the overall battle for 6th position on the racetrack as everything goes up. So, Nico Brand, he gained himself a bit of time though, because he's got himself now a 10-second gap over Tom Rafferty, Claudio Klima and Mikael Gustafsson, who he's battling with early on in this race. So we talked about it again. Nico Brand, very good at the middle stage of this race, also very good on pitting, and that's what's helped the number 42 car really get a clear advantage now. In fact, he's got not that big a gap. Yeah, it's actually a little bit smaller there than I thought it was going to be. It's actually only about 4 seconds, and with just 4 laps to go, you can catch that down. Nico Brandt's last lap time, 1 minute 53.292. That, of course, was involving his pit stop as well. But, yeah, Yannis ahead of him. He's not being that much faster on the racetrack. So we'll keep an eye out on this battle as it reaches its conclusion. But Thomas Halunen has closed up to the rear of Okayama. The gap is now just 1.2 seconds. And this is the battle for second position on the racetrack as Halunen goes a little bit wide there, down into the hairpin. This will give Rato just a couple of tenths of a second, and the last thing you're going to want to do is lose time as you're going through this section, because it's only going to hurt you once you get onto the straightaway itself. Rato's got himself a little bit of traffic ahead of him. That is going to be Bill Zahn in the 22nd position, driving the number 98 car, and Scott Malcolm as well. Both of these drivers are going to go a lap down to these two drivers. They currently scored 1 lap down from the race leader. That is, of course, Jan Koemans. And while this traffic is going to sort itself out, in fact, Rato's going to get a bit of advantage, getting a slight toe down the start-finish line as he's going to pass Zahn at the best possible point, say down one of these long straightaways. If you can pass these drivers, it really does give you an advantage. And if Rato can put a driver between himself and Halunen, this could really help him. But Rato's struggling there to try and get past. He's going to make a big dive down to the inside as they come down into turn number 1. He'll just sweep out to the outside. Does complete that pass. Now Rato is chopped that one car I talked about, and then actually Bill Zahn getting rear-ended by Thomas Halunen, and that really hurt him there. And Halunen actually thinks got himself a little bit of front damage after that. A big bump and run coming down to turn number 1. He didn't want to lose any time at all. And Halunen, that was very close to causing one of those drivers at least to wreck out. At the same time, Tom Rafferty just put a very big block on Claudia Klima as they came down into turn number 1. Klima in the 24 car, trying to get up into the 8th spot. Tom Rafferty is currently sat in the 8th position in the number 41 machine. Rafferty had himself a bit of a bad pit stop, but has moved up some positions in this race, trying to hold on to that 8th position for the moment. We'll go with them as they come on out of the spoon curve, down onto this long back straightaway, the longest straightaway on the racetrack. And as I say, we have got 2.5 laps left to go pretty much for these drivers. Lap traffic getting completely out of the way. Claudia Klima not quite close enough to make a move. It'll be literally the latest of all the last big breaks. It was going to make anything happen there, but closing it down once again down to a couple of car lengths as they come down into the hairpin. And if Klima can get a good couple of corners now here, he should be able to try and line Rafferty up as they come down either into turn number 9 or perhaps turn number 1 on lap number 22. In fact, Klima lost a little bit of time there as they came out of turn number 8, but Rafferty loses a little bit of time in turn number 9 itself. We talked about that all race long. It's been a difficult complex of corners for these drivers. They're going to come into turn number 10 now. And Tom Rafferty has got literally just 2 car length advantage over Klima. And Klima needs to get a very good corner here if he's going to make him move into 1. This is the best place that he can do so. But however, Rafferty is being a little bit better onto the power. Of course, if you're ahead, you put the power down when you want to. The car behind has to wait until it's your turn. Otherwise, you'd run over the car ahead of you. It's simple, basic physics here, of course. But Klima actually getting a little bit sideways into turn 1. Looking starting though, he's getting frustrated in his race car in the number 24 machine. I'm going to check back in with your race leader, Jan Koemans, who's currently working down in sector 2 of lap number 22. So he's got 1 and I'd say a third laps left to go. Yohemi Rato is in the 2nd spot. He's built that gap back up to Thomas Halunen, who was looking as though he was going to try and close down his 08 car. But with pretty much a lap and a half left to go for these drivers, Halunen is not going to be close enough unless Rato makes a big mistake in these last, what essentially is going to be 15 corners. Douglas Beard is in the 4th position. Akaduskis Turskis rounds out your top 5. Yeah, Yannis in 6th, Nico Brandt in 7th. Only a couple of car lengths behind some lap traffic. That is Kelvin Starlings there. Tom Rafferty is sat in 8th with Claudia Klima still right behind in 9th. Nico Gustafsson in the 10th spot as white flag is in hand. Jan Koemans comes down to turn number 1 for the final time. Koemans has absolutely dominated this race. He's got himself a 15.6 second gap over Yohemi Rato in the 8th car, and in turn a further 2 second gap over Thomas Halunen. So Jan Koemans has been the class of the field drop of the green flag here today. He hasn't led every lap because of the fact that he came down towards pit road a couple of laps before Thomas Halunen and Johanny Ratto, but has of course done the most laps here today, and unless he could crash the car now and probably walk it home. He's got that big of a gap over these other drivers. Johanny Ratto looks like he's got himself second position secured for the time being. We are going to keep a close eye out for Klima, but in fact he's dropped back a little bit himself as he takes a white flag. So about 4 car lengths behind Tom Rafferty. He's not going to need to do anything for there for the time being. But Jan Koemans now, he's got himself about 5 corners left to go in this race. And he's through the first of the left-handers, now down into the second one. He's been using a lot of the gravel on exit here. This time he uses the grass once again, coming underneath the bridge that has no name, making that left-hand turn range has been so difficult for all these races, all race long. But now Rafferty now just got himself 3 right-handers left to go. They call this track a little bit Mickey Mouse, the last couple of corners especially are. But Jan Koemans now down into the penultimate corner. He's going to use a lot of the curb and entry, use a lot of it on exit. He wants to get himself a good lap time on this, the final lap of the race. Jan Koemans comes out the start out of the final corner, uses all the gravel in the world, and Jan Koemans is going to win the first round of the second season of the Blondie's NX5 Championship on Glacier TV, and he takes victory there by over 16 seconds over Johanny Ratto. A dominant drive there by Jan Koemans in the number 55 machine. Ratto is going to come past the start-finish line to take the second position with Thomas Halunen down in the 3rd spot. He put it all to try and get that second position back that he lost on pit road, wasn't quite able to do so. Douglas Beard 4th, Akaduskis Turskis will finish in the 5th spot. Yeah, Yanis just coming out of the final corner now. He's going to claim the 6th position. Nico Brown closing that gap down to just under 3 seconds. So Brown gave it his all, wasn't quite able to make up the gap though. Tom Rafferty will claim the 8th position from Claudia Klima as they come past. And actually, I take that back. It looks as though Rafferty has run out of fuel. Tom Rafferty there has actually run out of fuel. And he loses, actually just having a look back there, it looks as though he runs out of fuel down out of the turn number 5. And I'm having a look back at the replay, yeah, just coming up the hill, all the car starts sputtering, it sputters, he has enough momentum to keep it running down the hill, but to clutch in, but Claudia Klima goes breezes past, and Tom Rafferty is actually going to be classified at least down in the 13th position. Just having a look, I mean, it's downhill for most of the way after the hairpin, but yeah, he gets that car stuck, and it's very, very slow for him now. I'm just having a look back and literally coasting that car towards line. He'll use the banking of the final corner to help him. Passes, he's almost there. 14 miles an hour. We can't run through the race results until he finishes. So go and get yourself a cup of tea, and I'm sure we'll be back in a minute. But edging his way closer, Ricky Bobby could probably get out of his car and run faster than this now. Tom Rafferty is almost there. And we're just going to look at this in a moment. Just look at the heart rate there for the 41 car. As now he will come past. Last lap, 3 minutes 9.5. Yeah. Tom Rafferty comes home in the 19th position there after being, up in 8th position at the start of the final lap. He is going to be hugely disappointed in that. I'm going to run through your final race results then. Jan Koemans in a time of 42 minutes dead takes home race victory after 23 laps of here, the Okayama International Circuit. Johanny Ratto takes home the 2nd position with Thomas Halunen in the 3rd spot. Douglas Beard in the 63 car takes home the 4th position with Akaduskis Turskis rounding out your top 5. Yeah, Yanis, Nico Brandt, Claudia Klima, Mikael Gustafsson and Eric Garcia take home 6th through 10th positions respectively, with Chuck Johnson in 11th, Renaud Tenney in 12th, Benjamin Lanoret in the 13th position, Dexter Castro 14th, Christopher Thompson in 15th. The rest of your results coming up on your screen momentarily. And I'm pleased to announce that in the first race of the season, every single driver finished the race. And that's pretty much all you could have asked for. So well done to all 27 drivers for finishing the race. We had a total of 19 cars on the lead lap. Of course, Tom Rafferty was the last of those. And at this time, I'd like to welcome in our race winner, the dominant Jan Koemans. Congratulations.
Thank you. Good evening.
It was a pretty easy race on your end, but it looks as though you were driving the socks off that thing.
Yeah, I don't like going slow, so I'm always trying for lap time. I'm always looking at the splits throughout the race, how much I'm up or down on my previous best lap. So I keep pushing. I mean that keeps it fun. It keeps you focused as well to not lose concentration.
And how difficult was that race, you know, in terms of just making sure that you could still set the lap times you needed out front, knowing that you had to make that first pit stop? For a little while, it did look as though that you were getting a little bit of a challenge from Thomas Lunan in second until he got involved in those battles with Henry Ratto, Douglas Beard, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's true. The trick is really to just try and break draft in the first couple of laps. So I try to push as hard as I can the first 2 laps to get a bit of distance between me and Thomas behind me. Luckily, they were battling a little bit and they lost time, so I could break free, and from there on I could just cruise around. The most difficult thing was actually I had to calculate. I was thinking how much fuel I need because I forgot to calculate it beforehand. So I was doing the math on the straight, trying to figure out how much I needed, and thankfully I got right.
At what point did you realise that not only did you have enough fuel, but also that you had the race in the bag? Was it after that first pit stop when you built up the kind of 15-second gap, or was it just a case of not caring until you passed the checkered flag?
Yeah, I was a bit worried right after the pit stop if I was going to have enough fuel, but like 1 lap later, I saw I was going to have about a 1 lap for fuel to spare, so that took the pressure off, and I just had some fun, tried not to make a mistake, which is actually very easy. There's 1 or 2 corners where you can easily put a wheel on the grass on braking and crash out, so I just tried to enjoy myself.
Yeah, turn number 8 seems to be difficult for a number of these drivers, like the kind of right-hander after the short straightaway. I mean, was there anywhere in particular that you found difficult at all? You know, spoon cone, a hairpin or anything?
I think turn 2, I think it is quite tricky because you have to be very far to the outside to get a good run through the corner, but there's grass there, so you have to be pretty accurate.
And looking forward to next week, looking forward to the second season of the Blondie 75 World Tour on Glacier.
Absolutely, thank you very much.
That's right, see you next week. And also now we'd like to take time to talk to Mr. Dexter Castro. We talk to you every week, and this week wasn't really the best one that you've ever had, finishing down in the 14th position, almost 90 seconds behind the race leader. It just looks as though you had difficulties getting that car dialed in today.
Yeah, this track hasn't usually been kind to me, and with all the fast corners, it's right in the range that the Roadster doesn't really like. So it was a struggle from the beginning, and then on top of that I had limited practice time, and sort of all went against me this week. But it's really my first week I'd call truly a poor performance, so I'm not too upset.
And when you compare the Roadster to the Cup car, I mean, did you choose to stay with the Roadster for this week? We saw a number of drivers switch, just out of the simple fact that, you know, you're more comfortable with the driving position there, or what was your reason for choosing the Roadster over the Cup car for this race today?
Oh well, actually, in this league you have to stick with one car the whole series except the oval. So I just stuck with it. If somebody's switching to the Cup, that's news to me.
But if I've blown anyone out of the water, I apologise. But is there much of a difference on this track though? I mean, you talked about the gearing, but the handling through the fast corners, is that more difficult here? Of course, the corners are actually, a lot of them are right-handers where you really need the speed, and I thought that generally kind of suits the Roadster a little bit more.
It would in theory, but especially there's just too many corners that are in a poor spot in the gearing for the Roadster. Like going down the corner heading into the long back straight, I had to defend it to the hairpin almost every lap for the first half of the race because people I was faster than would try and make a move to the inside at the end of that straight because they get a much better run out of that last corner.
But looking ahead next week, you and your little Roadster hoping to have some better performance, I guess.
Well, actually, I'm unfortunately going to have to miss the next 2 races, which I'm sure for all your viewers will be welcome to hear somebody else other than me for once.
Well, in that case, I'm guessing we'll see you in 3 weeks' time.
Yep, we'll see you then.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dave Castro, and finally today we're going to talk quickly to Scott Malcolm, again, another driver who had a difficult day today in that 74 machine. And Scott, again, it looks as though the Roadsters were having a difficult time with this track today.
Yeah, I think I'm going to race the Cup car next season. I just can't get my hands around this Roadster.
And just to get through your race, it looks as though that you made up a couple of positions early on. You moved yourself at least at one point, I believe, into the 17th position. But then, as the laps were on and the field got a bit more spread out, it looked as though you're getting picked off by a couple of these Cup cars in the second half of this race.
Yeah, I was speaking to Dexter before the race, and he was saying that the Roadster's not a very good car on this track. I think I found that out myself as well. As far as I know, the team are building a Cup car for me for next season, so hopefully I'll be moving up to the Cup car, and fingers crossed I get a bit more better, if you know what I mean.
But, of course, they have their benefits, they have their disadvantages. And we look at the big picture for the rest of the season. I mean, the Roadster does have its opportunities to be the faster car. And is it just a case of sometimes you know that you are going to be off the pace, and you're just trying to make the best of a bad deal?
It's maybe I've just not got the experience, if you know what I mean. Yeah, you could possibly say that, yeah.
No worries, and you looking forward to next week?
Oh, I can't wait. Look forward to all these races.
10 forward. Cheers out. And of course, the Blondie's Mazda MX-5 World Tour on Glacier TV is brought to you by Blondie's Bar in Long Beach. If you're ever in Long Beach, go and visit Blondie's Bar. And that is the end of our first part of the shortened Super Saturday on Glacier TV. We'll be back in, let's have a look at my watch, I know 2 hours to an hour and a half time actually. We'll be on air from about 8:30 with build-up for rounds number 3 and 4 of the Proto Ice $1,000 Cup. If you missed it last week, you find all the replays and everything that you need on Glacier TV. Some tremendous racing throughout the field, and some of these black stripes who had the chance to take a week off from the Pro Series as it's starting a week later, well, you know, use that time to tone themselves up for Silverstone. 3 and 4 rounds of the Proto Ice Championship. Say that start time will be 8:30 PM GMT. The entire pre-race, race itself, post-race, live on Glacier TV, part of iRacing Super Saturday here on Glacier. In the meantime, it's time for us to go. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye!